I'm Tim Dunn with Jimmy Wilkins. Jimmy, you write our Patriots blogs, our sports blogs, updates. I update the news with you guys, so that's why it's a perfect show for not only me, because doing the news is I'm incumbent to not be able to give my opinion on the news as well. So, who cares? If someone doesn't really, if someone cares about my opinion about Dustin Pedroia, then I think they have more things to worry about than that. So, we have the Patriots taking on the Tennessee Titans today, Jimmy. Titans are 9-7. Patriots are 13-3. I think this is pretty much going to be a wash. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, looking at it from the outset, it's kind of tough to figure the Titans doing anything. I mean, they won a wild card round game last week against Kansas City. If you really watch that game, it was more of a meltdown from Kansas City's standpoint. A typical Andy Reid fumbling all over himself at the end. I mean, he's got the offensive rookie of the year most likely in his backfield, and Kareem Hunt. The guy had I think 7 touches for 47 yards.
Well, and Kelsey got injured too.
Yeah, Kelsey gets injured, so that factors in a little bit too. But I think it was more of Kansas City losing the game than Tennessee winning the game. So when you look at the Tennessee team coming in here, not much of a leg to stand on. I put up my Patriots blog last night, my Pats preview blog that I do every week before the game. And my prediction is 38-13 Patriots. I just think it's going to be a runaway. If you're a betting man, which I'm not, you probably want to take the Pats. I think it's like 13.5 points, and it seems like they're a lock to probably cover that.
Well, yeah. Well, it's obviously a lock. I mean, I think they're going to win 59-0. No, I'm kidding. But not 59-0. But it's going to be a pretty easy game. There's not really much to talk about anyway. I mean, what's the big thing? It's not like there's much to even say in any divisional round game the Patriots have played as of lately. I mean, the last one you can really think of is, the last couple times they played the Texans in the divisional round, everyone's been saying, J.J. Watt, or, they have a really good defense, and then the Patriots smoke them, even if Brady has a bad game like he did last year in the divisional round.
Yeah, and I mean, my biggest storyline going in is make sure you're healthy for next week and for the week after that. Like, you don't want Gronkowski taking any unnecessary hits. You don't want Brady taking any unnecessary hits. Get your points on the board, get them done early, and don't let them kind of hang around until like the middle third.
Are you saying sit them when they're up by, if they're up in the third quarter? I don't agree with that.
Well, I say not Brady. I'd say you play Brady, take him out late in the fourth, something like that. Play him. I mean, he doesn't want to come out anyways, but Gronk, more importantly, you get up by 3 scores midway through the third quarter, there's not really a need to keep pressing him out there. Run the ball. Just don't do anything stupid. Don't put him in harm's way when the game's out of reach. I know the Patriots tend to like to keep going, full bore with their guys. They don't like to take plays off. But a guy like Gronk, he can be a difference maker when you play the Steelers, who are going to be a more formidable opponent, or the Jaguars. Yeah. But, I mean, you're up by 3 scores. At this point, this is a game that you should win whether you have Gronk out there or not. Get him going early. Get points on the board. And then don't worry about them later.
That's a game plan anyway. I'm just saying that it's a matter of, because they're going to be up. I don't think it's going to be a wire-to-wire game where it's going to be coming down to the last play. It's not going to happen. It's going to be, we're probably going to be talking about at halftime. There's going to be some people who are going to say, sit everybody, get Brian Hoyer in there, get what's his name from the Colts we got, the tight end, who doesn't do anything for us.
Dwayne Allen.
Yeah, Dwayne Allen. Yeah, Dwayne Allen, who doesn't do anything anyway, and just put him in there and then get everybody out, which I would think is sensible, but I don't think it's also. I think you're here to play. You've already had a week off. You don't want to just rest somebody for no reason. If you're in the fourth quarter with a couple minutes left, take them out. But I don't think you're just taking somebody out in the third quarter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking more Brady. From a Brady standpoint, take him out like the final 2 drives or final drive if you're up big. He doesn't need to be out there handing the ball off.
Well, that's standard in any game. I'm saying if we're up. Here's my question: If we're up, if the game's 42-14, Patriots are up, and they're entering the 8 minutes to go in the third quarter. Are you taking them out?
No.
What if they're up 52-14?
No, because I think, like you said, you don't want to break stride. You don't want to throw off momentum. Sometimes you can lose it just as easy as you can gain it. If you take someone out or take him out, which he doesn't want to come out anyways, if you take him out, maybe he kind of slips a little bit, sit on the bench, you rusty for next week. I don't know. But I would keep him in the game until the end, like you said, when they typically take him out anyways. I'm talking more of a Gronkowski standpoint. You're up 54-14, say. I don't really think you need to have him running around there, running routes. Give Philip Dorsett, give Dwayne Allen, give those guys some chances.
If the Patriots do have any sort of lapse today, who do you think it's going to be from the Titans that causes that lapse? Is it going to be Mariota? Is it going to be Derrick Henry in the ground? Is it going to be I can't think of anything. I mean, look who they've played. They played the AFC South, which is probably the most pathetic team, probably the most pathetic division in the entire NFL. I mean, they got the Colts, who are paltry. You have the Titans, who can barely beat those other teams, and the Texans are really probably the best team, but they always have a quarterback who either gets injured or they have a meltdown.
Yeah, the Texans, I mean, they're their own issue this year with the injuries on defense, and then obviously Watson going out. I think if the Patriots lose this game, the only way they lose it is because they hurt themselves. Either they fumble the ball or turn the ball over, or there's just.
So you don't think there's any way that Marcus Mariota could rush for? He threw a touchdown to himself last week.
I mean, that's a fluke play. It's a gimmick. I mean, I think that outside of Mariota, who I guess scares you a little bit because he is a rushing quarterback, and the Patriots have had problems containing running quarterbacks, and they've had problems getting off the field on third downs and allowing quarterbacks to scramble. Aside from him, they got two threats on that team. It's Delaney Walker and Derrick Henry. Neither of them, I look and say, they're unstoppable. The Patriots will always take away at least one of your best options, so you take either Walker or Henry completely out of the game, and you worry about the other one. I don't see what Mariota might be able to do, and one of them being able to be enough to really thwart the Patriots.
Well, the biggest thing for the Patriots is that their cornerbacks aren't going to be stressed out. I don't think there's no real who's the biggest receiving threat, and they're going to lock down Derrick Henry.
Eric Decker, who's like 4 years past his prime. He made one big catch last week.
The Patriots know how to minimize him anyway. He's played in the Jets and been around the AFC for a while. He was in the Broncos, I think, before this last stint here.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's not really a big threat. So I think there's nothing really to look at in this game. I mean, when Belichick, I don't know if you heard him in the other, I forget what show, it might have been on Dale and Holly and WEI. In their weekly interview, he mentioned that, what was it? It was the punter.
He was talking a lot. I was watching actually, I was on, I don't know if you saw it, on the Patriots.com. They do the Bellustrator with Zolak, and he was breaking down the punter and how the punter angles his punts. And
well, it's like typical Belichick, but usually, my point is usually in an interview leading to either a big game, whether it's a big regular season game, or any playoff game, the question always comes to Belichick, whether he answers it or not, with one word or maybe a sentence if you're lucky, is. He points somebody out and points out a good thing on the defense. But when he points out your punter, it's kind of like, I think that's the token sign for him to say that you're kind of a pathetic team. Sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would say it's probably never a good thing when you're in a divisional round matchup and your opponent points out your punter as your biggest threat.
Right. All right. So I wanted to talk to you about the Jimmy Garoppolo trade there, Jimmy. How do you? Well, before I ask you how you feel about it, I'll tell you how I feel about it. Actually. I think that the Seth Wickersham story, for example, I think that's blowing up out of proportion what has really happened. I think that there may have been an issue, but I think it's no more of an issue that everybody has at work. What I have maybe with any of our bosses here or anywhere else, or you may have at your boss at any of your other jobs. I think it was maybe a disagreement at most. I think Kraft definitely ordered the pushed the red button and said get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think it was a means of Brady blowing up and cheering on people as he attested to on his interview weekly in Boston as well. He's not. I really find it hard to believe that he was cheering when Jimmy Garoppolo left. I know he thinks he's a threat, but this guy is also Tom Brady. I mean, look what Belichick laughed at the press conference in 2014 when they asked if there was a quarterback change and needed after they got killed by Kansas City. It's still the same way.
Yeah, I mean, the Seth Wickersham report, it was a lot of stuff that we already knew. And then, he dazzles it up, puts a couple things in different places, adds some stuff in about getting locked out of TB12 and all that good stuff, tries to make you think it's some big scandal. It was a lot of information that we already knew, that people knew. Clearly, Brady...
What information?
Stuff about, like, they had to trade Garoppolo, or Brady was...
Why did they have to? I didn't think they had to trade him. Why would they have to trade him?
Well, they didn't have to trade him, but the Patriots aren't going to spend the money to franchise him, and the only way that they're keeping him is if they franchise him. He was not going to sign a deal to stay there. I mean, he wants to compete. He wants to play.
Well, right. He wants to compete and to win. But what I'm trying to question you on is you saying that from the Patriots' perspective that they have to trade him. I don't think that I think they could have. It's not impossible. I don't think. I mean, it's impossible to pay $50 million for two players. That's obviously impossible. Or even one, but you can still probably figure out some sort of salary cap way. I think obviously you're right. The the franchise was getting too high. The franchise tag was getting way too high. I don't know if, but the move they made here is, it's not like this is a rental. It's not like they're going to, send him away and get him right back like it's Deion Branch or somebody else you've seen over the years. He's gone. He's going to be, and what he's looking like, with this 5-game win streak he had at the end of the season for the 49ers, he's looking like he's going to be the next Tom Brady over there. Who knows? It could just be another, it could be another Matt Castle sort of aspect to it. But I think that he should have stayed in the team any means necessary. I'm not an economist, but I think there should have been a way.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I'm not a business guy. I don't know the money scenario, so maybe there was a way where they could finagle some stuff. In the report, they did have that one thing about how they offered him, where they were floating 4-year deal for like $18 million a year, would go up if he became the starting quarterback. So yeah, there was a way that they could have tried to beg him to stay, but I don't think he wanted to bite on that. I think he wants to go and be his own guy, which he's sat there for this is his 4th year in the league now, so he's done what he needed to do to get an opportunity somewhere else. He wanted that. I don't think it's that they didn't. Maybe it's a poor choice of words if they had to trade him, but I think it's kind of like there's nothing else they're going to be able to do with him by the end of the year. And at that point, I think Belichick just wanted to be done with the whole thing. I actually heard an interesting take from a caller on the radio this week, which I don't think is out of the question of possibility, is that Belichick maybe went out and got himself that original deal, floated the deal out to San Francisco, got the 2nd-round compensation because Kraft had told him, we got to move on from Jimmy, and he gets the 2nd-round compensation thinking that when he goes back to Kraft to okay the deal, Kraft will never okay a deal for Garoppolo for just a 2nd-round pick. And then Kraft goes and if he talked with Peter King and talked about how he went and talked to his son Jonathan, and they kicked around the idea of the deal, and then they went back to Bill and said, yeah, go do it. So I think it was one of those situations where maybe...
I don't believe that, though. I don't believe Robert Kraft for a second on that. It was like a well-thought-out business plan. Do you buy that? That they went there? I think there is disagreement on that. Look what they got back. Do you even know? I mean, they got a 2nd-round draft pick. And while Cleveland was offering 4, that's the big crux of the art. That's the big split here, I think. With if Cleveland never offered 4 first-round picks, I mean, again, they're offering 4 first-round picks, and we had Adam Schefter telling every single media outlet in Boston over the summer saying, doesn't matter if they offer him 5 first-round draft picks, they're not trading Garoppolo. So and Adam Schefter's a pretty good source. So I just find it hard to believe that they are sitting down and saying, okay, you know what, let's take over someone on the same category level, the same likes as Philip Dorsett. I highly, Belichick wants. I know he's not the best drafter in the world, but he's also not the best trader in the world, but he's also not an idiot.
Well, I mean, I think Belichick was trying to make what I was trying to say was make a bad deal so that Kraft would never okay it, so that he could say, you know what, Robert, I tried to trade the guy. This is what I could get for him on the market. You didn't like it, so we're going to have to stick with him for now, and then maybe like you said, maybe there's a way to keep him in the long run. I think Kraft came back and said Kraft maybe because he's...
I don't think that's... but that's the thing. I don't think it's a rental. I don't think this is a rental either. That's silly to think. He's on the... the 49ers aren't going to let him go. It's not like there's a rental contract that they can write out. It's the rental is kind of like the philosophy of the trade. It's like a backroom shake, if anything at most, or it could have been Kraft, which I doubt. What you're suggesting maybe is at most what's possible is Kraft thought, okay, maybe I can make a rental out of him. Maybe he won't do so good without Belichick, and he's actually exploding right now on a team that was garbage for the last few years. So I mean, I don't know. I just don't think that there's any rental aspect involved in this. I think that he's going to be.
No, I didn't think there was any rental either. I just was thinking that Belichick was trying to get a bad deal. Trying to offer Kraft a bad deal, not so that they could get him back, but so that Kraft would say, why would we trade this guy who the man that I trust to run the entire organization from a personnel and from a football standpoint, that you think he's going to be the next coming of the guy that we have now, why would we trade him only for a 2nd-round pick? And I think Belichick thought, well, if I give him this deal and he says there's no way we can do this because I think so highly of him and you think so highly of him, and then he says, okay, well, that's all I could get for him. We'll have to keep him for now. And then he continues throughout the summer maybe to try to work some magic in keeping him. So I didn't think it was like a rental thing. I just thought it was an idea of Belichick. The trade came about more from Belichick trying to get a bad deal to the point where Kraft would say, too low. It's too low. We need more. We need that 4 first-round picks that people have said Cleveland was thinking about offering, which I still don't think is real anyways.
I see what you're saying. I still don't think. I think the way it ended up was Belichick. Because I see what you're saying. You're presenting the fact that Belichick was trying to lowball Kraft so much that it was unattractive to trade Garoppolo at that point. Yeah. Okay. I think it went beyond that point. I think Belichick is, again, he has full control. He's the GM. He's the boss, right?
Yeah.
So I think what he did is he just was going to go ahead and keep Garoppolo, and then something happened. I think either Brady, I think part of this might be true. That's why I'm giving some credit to it. Where I think, because just not even to Seth Wickersham or any ESPN investigation into this. I'm just saying, look at the evidence. From what all transpired just between that building, what we've heard from that are just facts, not opinion or not speculation. I think that Belichick wanted to keep Garoppolo. Kraft at some point went up to him and put the kibosh on it and said, "No, you're trading him." Brady's not happy with it for some reason, because also Alex Guerrero's tied into this in a weird way. I mean, because what also transpired before this, as you remember, is Guerrero got kicked off the sideline. So maybe. Sure. The other speculation coming around is that Brady was upset about the Guerrero thing. Now he's getting more agitated about the Garoppolo thing, and this kind of went to a head.
Yeah, well, I think there's no doubt that Brady has Kraft's ear to some extent, and I think they're very close. And I think from a business standpoint, if you look at it from Robert Kraft's standpoint of being the owner of the Patriots and trying to keep fans and keep fans engaged, what's hypocritical?
Him, Robert Kraft.
For what?
If the Patriot way always says, it doesn't, because what was the talk, in 2006?
Sure.
It's going to end bad, or even last year, it's going to end badly. It's going to end badly at the Patriots, and specifically with Brady and Belichick. It's going to go, and Brady's even said it himself. His father said that it's going to go down badly.
Yeah.
So for Kraft to sit there and say, that's it. We're going to make our first exception in our whole run of my ownership of this team. We're going to say Brady's the only guy who can never be cut ever.
So it's hypocritical for him. I get that. It's hypocritical for him to say, now's the time, or this is the guy that bucks the trend. When we traded Richard Seymour, when we traded Logan Mankins, when we traded Lawyer Malloy, we traded all these guys that were towards the tail end of their career, maybe had a couple years left, but were really towards the end, and we decided to go to the younger, cheaper option that we thought could still help us because it's the system that works, right? But if you also look at it from Kraft's standpoint of, a lot of fans will probably be a little upset if Brady gets traded, or if they decide to go away from Brady and stick with Garoppolo. So as much as you want to, I get where you're coming from, and I get it is hypocritical because it's always been beat into all of our heads since the time.
So what do you mean? What's the point? So so how is it? Are you trying to say it's not hypocritical?
Well, I'm not. I mean, I never really looked at it from that perspective. Looking at it from that perspective, it is hypocritical, but you kind of have to see where he's coming from, where it's like, why would you can't just get rid of Brady. You just can't. Until he crashes and burns on his own, you can't just go away from Brady.
What if Brady came out this year and had 16 interceptions and 12 picks?
16 touchdowns and 12 picks.
I'm sorry, 16 interceptions and 12 touchdowns.
Well, then, I consider that crashing and burning. That is not close to what Tom Brady.
But what if they had the same record though? What if they had the same record though? What if they had the same record?
Well, then somehow, their defense would have to be a lot better.
Or they still had a winning record per se. They still had they made the wild card round. They're still going to go to the playoffs, but Brady clearly wasn't that good. It was to the point where Brian Hoyer was coming in for games and making up doing mop up duty. What happens then? Are you someone who says well the five Super Bowl rings matter?
No, because his play has slipped. I mean, you have to look at the way they win those games.
Well, that's a precipitous drop. That's not a slip in that scenario. But I'd say his play has slipped for the month of December. Now, I don't think his overall play has slipped at all. I think it's just he's injured and he's got a terrible offensive line. Yeah. But that's beside the point. I'm trying to say is Kraft is 100% hypocritical, and I can't really see where he's coming from because he's the one who's professed with Bill Belichick, by the way, that nobody is untouchable. Nobody is. Not even Belichick. He's not. The only one who's untouchable is Mr. Robert K. Kraft, but apparently that's now in a partnership with Brady.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it is hypocritical because of the mantra that they've spread out for so long and the ideology that they've had since the beginning of Belichick's reign. I tend to think that's much more Belichick, obviously, than Kraft. And Kraft has stood by him the whole time. Why would he buck him? He's won 5 championships over 17 years. He's done everything right that you possibly can. I mean, they're the best team over his tenure as head coach of any team in the NFL. So I understand why Kraft stands with him. I don't know if it's so much Kraft's mindset. I think it's much more Belichick's mindset that Kraft has just accepted and moved on with. But Brady is different. And I think it's partly the fact of, like, the quarterback is a different position than any other position on the field, right?
It's the most important position in sports.
You can trade your all-pro, Pro Bowl defensive end who still has maybe 3 or 4 good years ahead of him, but you can trade him and get a couple good draft picks or
Belichick's
something.
done that in the past. Say goodbye to any position, whether it's Seymour, whether it's Welker, whether it's McGinnis, whether anybody asking for too much of a high price at the time they're done. Lawyer Malloy was the first one. That's historical, but that also kind of, I think, attributes to my point where it's kind of, it doesn't no one expected Lawyer Malloy to leave the team. ESPN falsely, they started, back in 2001, falsely reported that the team hates Belichick, but I think there is definitely a rift with the team. I think they're definitely upset with the trade, but I think the people who, if you went to the Patriots, you learn quickly. It's you perform and you don't, I guess, you don't ask for a lot of money. Brady's even taking pay cuts. Brady doesn't even make that much, compared to, Jay Cutler made more than Brady for, Brady was making fractions of what Jay Cutler was making. That's how Belichick kind of is working the system.
Sure. But I also think you have to realize, too, for as much as it's next guy up and we're not going to overpay for this guy, or this guy's towards the end of his career, we're going to move on to the next option, next younger, cheaper option. Brady is so much different than any other player that's been in this type of situation where they're a little bit older, they're on the back end of their career. Let's sell as high as we can on them now and move on. Brady, no other player, whether it's a Lawyer Malloy, a Richard Seymour, a Mike Vrabel, none of them compare in magnitude to what Tom Brady means to this team and this run over 17 years. He's been there the whole way. It's just a completely different scenario. And I think it's hard to, I don't know, I think it's tough to come down on Kraft so hard for, if it's any other guy, I don't think it's an issue. But with Brady, what Brady means to this team just as much as what and whether you want to debate whether it's Brady or Belichick, and everybody likes to talk about, well, would Belichick be good with another quarterback, or would Brady be good with another coach? Brady is such an integral part to what's happened here.
Well, obviously. I mean, it's the three of them. What I'm trying to say, how is it bad to come down on Kraft? I mean, Kraft clearly has lost it. I think he's losing it. It could be old age. It could be something like that. And I don't want to step out of bounds and and make fun of the guy or something, because I don't want. We all know what can happen at old age with different things, but he's done this before. He's done this in the last few years where he's kind of made no sense, where he's backtracked with the Deflategate. The story that won't go away still. There's reports a couple weeks ago how he was saying, well, I only did it for the fans. And remember his whole screw up with that. He couldn't even decide what he wanted to do. So this is another scenario, I think. I think Kraft is, accepted. I think Kraft got his nose into it. Robert Kraft, mind you. I think Jonathan's just his little pet dog right now. I think just he has to be. I think Robert Kraft has put his foot down and said this is going to happen. Garoppolo is gone. Brady's made us a bunch of money. He's been the face of this franchise, which I can. That's an argument that makes sense, but I still don't understand that. If you're looking up for the best options of your own franchise, for your own, for the good of your team going forward, I'm not saying he should get rid of Brady right now. I'm not saying that at all. Brady shouldn't. He's still the best. I still think he has a couple of years left, but I still think it's also silly to get rid of your Steve Young to your Joe Montana. We threw it away. There's going to be a time where the Patriots fans are sitting there, and Patriots fans are going to be upset because they're going to be, 3-13 instead of 13-3. They're going to be 4-12 for a few years in a row instead of 12-4 for a few years in a row.
Sure, and I mean, again, I see where you're coming from. I see the idea of, it's not even that you want to step away from Brady, but maybe it's time, like the Young and Montana thing, where Are we gonna mortgage 10 years of solid play?
Let me ask you this: have you seen anybody more obvious of the succession? I guess not to mention the circumstances we were in. That he was, that Garoppolo came over when Brady was in his 37 or 38 years old, and now he's 40, and he left when he was 40. Not that it doesn't matter that circumstance. The fact that there is probably has anybody else been any other Brady's backups been more obvious of a successor to Brady?
No, not even close.
So that's the big that's why I think it's more important.
But did everybody see when Jimmy Garoppolo was drafted in, what was it, 2014 or
2014?
Yeah, 2014. Did everybody look at him and say he's the next guy, or did they look at him and say he's the next Kevin O'Connell, he's the next Ryan Mallett?
Yeah, that was
so
the
what's
first
to
year.
say
Yeah,
that
that's the first
Belichick
year,
can't?
Jimmy.
What's to say Belichick can't recreate what he did
because
with
they
Garoppolo?
don't just grow on trees. That we've seen that. So you're saying you're trying to tell me what's to say Belichick can't get another Garoppolo when it's taken him about what 14? It took him 14 years to find one, and that's not even to say that there's some luck added to that. Quarterbacks, look at the quarterbacks starting in the league now. There's like 4 that can even be named a starting quarterback or labeled a starting quarterback, and half are injured. That's why I'm saying he's not going to be the next Kevin O'Connell. He's not going to be the next Brian Hoyer. Maybe people thought that. I probably was even thinking that when he first was in training camp, and his second week ever in a pro uniform, he was screwing it up. But that's probably expected. In the last couple of years, especially proving from last year when he had to come in for Brady for that I know it was a game and a half stretch, but he's also proved it this year that he's probably the real deal. He's the closest one to an actual legit quarterback than anyone's been, because he also has proved that with the 49ers without having Belichick on his side. Because people always say, well, he did it with Castle. You did it with Castle. They went 11-5 with Matt Castle. They also had probably one of the best teams they've ever had. They had they still had Randy Moss. They had Wes Welker. They had a defense that had, I think, like 9 out of the 11 players were Pro Bowl starters. The only person they were missing was Ty Law from that fanatical early 2000s defense. Then, so that you could have put me in quarterback there. They probably would have done all right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying that Garoppolo's not special. I'm not saying that he's not a difference maker. I'm just saying I don't know if it's out of the realm of possibility to think that you can't. If you truly, or whether it's Belichick or Kraft or Brady himself, whoever it is, if 2 of the 3 of them truly believe that Brady has 4 more years or 5 more years of elite play or high-level play in his future, it's not out of the realm of possibility that in the next 1 or 2 years you can go out and get the next Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, no one was looking at Jimmy Garoppolo thinking he was going to be what he was. Now, even when he was traded, I don't know if everybody thought he was going to be as good as he was down the stretch for that San Francisco team.
It blew up. It blew up right after he traded. Everyone, the reaction if you were listening to any. It wasn't really mentioned on. It was mentioned in all of Boston kind of radio airwaves. That's all the sports radio airwaves, especially. It was one of the biggest news stories in the country for that. This is one of them right now. This whole rift between anything Patriots is big. So I think last year he proved it. I think by this time last year, people were saying we have a solid backup. I think I was saying it too. I mean, I think I was pretty convinced last year that, okay, this guy should be it. Brady's going to be 40 next season. Me talking in last year's tens. He's going to be 40 next season. If we're talking now, he's going to be 41 next season. How great would it be right now to have Jimmy Garoppolo just waiting? I mean, I think there's always a happy medium when you're making millions of dollars, right? I know he's the ultimate competitor and he wants to start.
Well, then I think that's more on Garoppolo too, though, because I always thought, now, like you said, you're a competitor, you're an NFL quarterback, you want to be a starter, that's fine. But I always thought from Garoppolo's standpoint, why the hell would you not want to be here? This is a system that made Matt Castle an 11-game winner, okay? So if Matt Castle can win 11 games and he's clearly not an 11-game winner anywhere else and hasn't really done much in the rest of his career, why wouldn't you wait out maybe 1-2 more years of Brady? Why wouldn't you take a deal if there was a deal on the table that was 4 years, $18 million to sit on the bench, learn under one of the greats, whether he's teaching you, holding your hand through it, or just watching him play and learning.
I think that's
working
unknown.
for one of the top coaches, or maybe the top coach of all time. There's no definite that McDaniels is gone. Why, if you're Garoppolo, why aren't we putting some of the onus on Garoppolo for saying, hey, yeah, want to give me this money? I'm not going to ask you to give me $24 million a year, but if you give me $18 million a year for 4 years, I'll sit here thinking that maybe by the 3rd or 4th year of that deal, it'll be me.
Well, I think that's kind of what they have to deal with anyway. I mean, that's what your owner is, what your coach / GM like Belichick is for, and that's what your players are going to leave. They want certain things. Usually, I think 99% of the time it's money, but I think once you made a bunch of money, maybe Garoppolo's a humble guy. I think that matters less compared to what the actions of the Patriots ownership and staff did. And what's interesting, too, is, the fact that you mentioned all these deals that could have potentially happened between them, because they had the same agent. They have Don Yee, that genius, who put out who handled Brady's Deflategate thing and kind of botched it in the beginning and gave ESPN and everybody else kind of all this ammo against him. That's for a different day. But the fact that they had the same agent and they couldn't work out a certain deal is kind of surprising. You'd think that there'd be a little bit more of a meshing between sides.
But I would think it would actually be a hindrance more than it would be a help, right? Because if you're Don Yee and you're sitting in a negotiation about Jimmy Garoppolo, right? And they're telling you, yeah, sign this 4-year deal. Brady isn't going to be here past the second year. So you have 2 more years that you have to wait. We're going to give you $18 million a year. By 2 years, you're going to be the guy. And then he sits in his Tom Brady meeting a week from then, and he's being told, yeah, we want you to come back for another year. Yeah, we think you can still play to 45. If he's getting told, it's tough from Don Yee's standpoint. If he's getting told, I think it's easy. I mean, 2 different things.
You sit them both, not both of them at once, but you sit them down each individually, and you appease Brady. That's number one thing. He's been your client. He's been he's the highest profile NFL player you can have, especially in the market for fielding him. You appease him. He's also pretty easy. Brady's not that hard to work with when it comes to a financial standpoint. He's told he's going to get paid most of his money when he retires anyway. He gets most of it through signing bonuses anyway. So it's not like it's waiting money to be paid, and it's not a waiting bill. So with Garoppolo, it's really the hardest thing. Because obviously, you can't bash the guy for wanting to. If I'm going to be a backup, I better be paid because I'm this good. I don't want my talent to go to waste. You can't fault the guy for that. With Don Yee, I think it's pretty simple to say, look, Garoppolo, and maybe this happened. Maybe Garoppolo isn't buying it. Maybe he got tired of waiting. But I would assure Garoppolo, my first thing I would do is to make sure Garoppolo is convinced that he is going to be replacing Brady, because I think that's obvious.
This is as Don Yee.
Yeah, you're telling, maybe even Belichick too. Maybe Belichick tried doing that. Maybe, because I also think, maybe he told Garoppolo that. Maybe Garoppolo was believing it too, but it's not like he left. Again, you were saying you have fault Garoppolo for it. He didn't leave. He didn't say I'm gonna make more money. He got traded. He didn't have any choice. He could have wanted to stay.
Well, the reason why I said I have some fault for Garoppolo is because if the reports are true about them offering the 4-year deal or pushing some deals, if he really wanted to be here, he could have signed the deal. Yeah, he did get traded, and yeah, it wasn't him who said it's not like he demanded a trade. It's not like he said, I'm out of here. It's not like he walked in free agency, but he might as well have walked in free agency if he didn't accept the deal that they gave him.
Here's a quote from the Wickersham story. Complicating matters even more is that Belichick didn't want to trade Garoppolo. He had passed on dealing him last spring when Garoppolo was of high demand. In early September, Belichick did make that trade third string quarterback Jacoby Brissett to the Colts for wide receiver Philip Dorsett. Quote, and he said, quote, if we trade Jimmy, we're the Cleveland Browns, and with no succession plan, which he is correct. So he didn't want to trade him at all. So, I mean, I don't know. How do you fault Garoppolo for wanting to get more out of his career? That's what you deal with. That's my point. When you're an owner of a team, if you're in any management and you're dishing out salaries to people, that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with players who want to get more. Belichick, you have to deal with the coach who wants to keep him, and despite all that crap, and that's also kind of why he should have just stayed in his lane. To quote my man LeVar Ball, he should have stayed in his lane and let Belichick do what he's done for the last 17 years now.
So if you're Bill Belichick and we take Robert Kraft out of it, we say let's take away Robert Kraft and what we both believe are his emotions towards Brady and wanting to keep Brady as the quarterback and the face of the team. If you're Bill Belichick, how do you keep both of them? How do you keep both Brady and Garoppolo?
From what kind of standpoint? Obviously
how do you keep them for the next? If you're Bill Belichick and you know Brady's not going anywhere, on his own accord, he's not going anywhere until he is 44 years old, which is 4 years away, but you want to keep Garoppolo, how do you do that?
I don't know. I think that's what he was going to figure out. He was clearly planning on doing it somehow, right? He does things that we are all amazed by. He was clearly planning on keeping Garoppolo in some capacity. So I think that's why I think it's on Kraft. Kraft did something. Kraft thought something convinced Kraft that said, okay, I'm gonna whether it's happened before privately in a less impactful standpoint. I think for the first time ever, he said, "I'm going to get in the way of Bill Belichick here. I'm going to put the hammer down here. I'm the owner, and he has the right to do that. I'm not denying that, but I think that was a stupid move Because look what you did now. He could have potentially screwed. There's no guarantee Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be coming. Another Jimmy Garoppolo or Tom Brady is coming through that door, obviously. And even if they do, it's not a good chance the Patriots could get them.
And there's no guarantee. I think we have to take a little bit of a step back. There's no guarantee Jimmy Garoppolo is the next Tom Brady. Yeah, did he look good in 1.5 games against the Cardinals and the Dolphins last year? And did he look good in 5 games this year? Yeah. But does that mean that he's now just as good as a guy who won 5 Super Bowls and has oodles of records in the NFL and is going to go down as the greatest quarterback in NFL history?
You're not looking for exact comparison. I don't think I said that either. I think what you're looking at though is the replacement. The little label you can give it is the Steve Young to your Joe Montana. That's what we have. That's the situation we had, and I think Garoppolo could have even been better. Look what he was coming. I don't have to really explain how good Garoppolo was. The guy was a very good quarterback in I think it was a D1A or something like that system that had they didn't have a playbook. He just had like audibles he'd go out with and he would just decide. So he's obviously a smart kid. He's a good decision maker. The 1.5-game stretch, I will give you credit for that. That is a very small sample size. I'll give you
and
that.
He didn't play. Not to nitpick at it or anything. They were tearing up the Dolphins when he got injured. He didn't do anything to wow you in the Cardinals game, the first game of the year, which you wouldn't expect him to. It's his first ever meaningful minutes. It's the first game of the season.
He threw a touchdown pass.
He threw 1 touchdown pass, but other than that, what did he do? It wasn't like he took over the game. That game was really a lot of running from LeGarrette Blount that set it up, and he had the 1 touchdown pass.
Well,
they won 23-16.
Well, what did Brady do when he was young? When he was, and that was Garoppolo's, 3rd year in the league then? So what did Brady do in 2003 as a starter? He relied a lot on, I remember the name Corey Dillon.
Yeah.
2004, 2003, 2004. We relied on we had the best offensive. Well, I should stop saying we. The Patriots had the best offensive line in the league for a good few years, a good few year run, and they had one of the best. Albeit he was aged, one of the best veteran running backs behind him. And Brady he wasn't really. That's why Manning was still the guy. He wasn't really matching Manning in anything statistically until a couple of years later when he really exploded. That's just how quarterbacks develop, I think. But with Garoppolo, he had a really good Arizona card. Not really good. What he did in the Arizona Cardinals game last year was he didn't lose. He didn't fumble the ball. He didn't throw an interception. He didn't put the Patriots in a position where they could lose the game, which is what Brady does. I think that's probably what Brady does the best. He can carve your defense up, but he's also not going to lose you the game. Every single pick he has, which by the way, is weirdly is a horrible whopper of a pick. It's never like a pick that was just he read the defense wrong. It was like can this guy even play the game at all?
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's hard to say. It's hard either way. I don't know. Maybe I'm middleman Jim here because
you're a flopper. It looks like, I guess, huh?
It's hard to say that. I don't know. For me, it's hard to say that Garoppolo is going to be the next guy. I get what you're saying, where he's not going to be. Steve Young was never Montana, but he was good enough to win you a Super Bowl, right? And he was good enough to sustain your dominance in the NFC for X amount of years, right?
Steve Young was good enough for a couple of years. I think that they kind of overshot getting rid of Montana earlier, but Brady's a different story than Montana, obviously.
Yeah. I just don't know. I think it's really tough to. I actually don't think it's horrible to blame Kraft because I think it is Kraft who said, or whether he said directly, trade Garoppolo. I think it was actually one of the things going back to after the Wickersham report came out when Kraft talked to Peter King. One of the interesting things that he said, or was actually something that he didn't say, he said multiple times that he did not talk to Belichick about Garoppolo. He didn't say that he never talked to him about Brady. So maybe it was less of we're trading Garoppolo and more of we're keeping Tommy. We're keeping Tom. I don't care what you have to do with Garoppolo, whether you trade him or if you want to try to keep him, whatever, but Tom's going nowhere. Because I think basically what it comes down to is that Bill Belichick would be willing to walk away from Tom Brady after the season completely, like the San Francisco 49ers did with Joe Montana.
That's crazy.
I think he would.
You think he'd be able to walk away from Tom Brady this season?
I think he would.
If they lost today.
I think he would.
That's unbelievably crazy. I'm sorry. So you're telling me that what grounds does that stand on? What has Brady done in decline besides, what people are kind of blurring about this, this last December, which is kind of what happened before. What grounds would that be on? He's 41 next year? That's it?
I think it would be more on the fact of that if you're Bill Belichick and you believe in Garoppolo, like all the reports say you do, that he is the next guy and that your team has always been built on a system rather than on individual players. If you're Bill Belichick, I wouldn't be shocked if you said like the same thing you said when you traded Richard Seymour. I'll give up 3 years of still pretty strong to awesome Tom Brady for what I believe is going to be 10 to 15 years of very solid to great Garoppolo.
No, I think that's going too far, because my happy medium would be they keep them both, because if you get rid of Tom Brady and he's still got plenty. If Tom Brady's still good, if you're getting rid of Tom Brady, you're going to be playing him. If he's still that good.
Yeah,
if you're saying he's falling off, then fine, yeah. But I don't think that, say if it was this year, say if this trade never happened and Garoppolo was still on this team, and we're at the situation we are right now, just Garoppolo never left, right? Would you get rid of Brady at the end of this year if you had Garoppolo
I wouldn't, but I think Bill Belichick would.
I don't think he would do that yet. I think he would wait. I think that's why I think he was. That's why I think his plan was. I think he was, simpatico, to use a phrase with Garoppolo, where he was saying, "Look, Brady's done. He's done." I mean, I think it's kind of what they probably had the subconscious thought of, okay, well, it's gonna, he's Brady. He's got 5 Super Bowls. Scottie Pippen always took a backseat to Michael Jordan. So I think Garoppolo, for the time being, was planning on it. Maybe Kraft was too. Again, he got traded. He didn't leave, so it's not like he has to convince him that much besides the financial standpoint, which the financial standpoint really relies on the boss, even though Belichick decides.
Yeah, but how are you going to – I don't care whether Brady's taken a million pay cuts in his life. If you're saying that the only thing that's holding them back from keeping Garoppolo is paying him more, there's no way Brady's okay with making $18 million a year, and Garoppolo, his backup, who's done nothing more than play a game and a quarter or a game and 2 quarters, is going to be making $24 million. That just doesn't float the boat.
It doesn't make any mathematical sense, but that's something they have to solve. So we'll see how that plays out. We'll just take a quick break, and we'll just we'll do a quick segment about JD Martinez if you want to do that.
Sure.
All right, sweet. We'll do that when we come up next.